Okay, so again, everybody, thank you for coming to the training today. This training is for learning about statistics from beginning to end and all the steps in between. We do have an open forum as we usually do here with data services, especially with a smaller group. If you have questions, please feel free to just unmute yourself and ask the question. Or if you want to just put it in the chat, I am monitoring that and then we can go ahead and answer that. It may look like there's some time elapsing after you put it in the chat, just so you know, but I am watching and we will get that brought in as we're going through. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're going to talk through this whole thing. And I'm going to also intersperse in there with some new features that we're doing this year to make everybody's life just a little bit easier. One of the first things, if you were doing stats last year, one of the things that we had is the forgot password, and you can see it right there. And it seems like a very simple thing, the forgot password. But how it worked in the past was if you clicked on that or your users clicked on it, whether it be the church or the district or the conference, what they would get is, a message that would come up saying, please contact your conference or district office for assistance. If you have 100 churches and everybody has to contact you, that's 100 phone calls. That's a lot. So we looked at redoing that, revamping that. So it was a multifold change. We changed the usernames also. It used to be usernames were just your email. So if you have pastors, for example, that oversee multiple churches, they were having difficulties. Well, I want to use the same email. How do I do this? Now we've taken that away from the sense that we now use a username with an email associated. So if you click on forgot password, go ahead, Adam. Thank you. So it'll come up, please enter your username to reset your password. You'll key in your username, click reset. It works just like any other reset password, just like if you were to forget your Amazon password, right? It'll send you an email. There's a link. It's valid for, I think it's 20 minutes for you to reset your password, and then you can go from there. So just so you all know, we every year when we open up the stats year, you can close out of that, Adam. Every year when we open up the stats year, we bring over all the conference and district users. We do not bring over church users, and that's just due to turnover at churches, the volunteers that help do stats. We do not bring over their user ID, or sorry, their accounts. So one of the things when you set up your year for stats, you're going to want to look at your accounts that are out there, because all we did was copy the email over to the username. And y'all might want to change that so it doesn't say, for example, ashelton@gcfa.org. You change the username to be Adam Shelton. So that's just something to look at.
Quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Since I'll have like three different conferences that I'll be having to log into,
Mhm.
is that going to be a little difference on how will I just need a different email for each conference or something to
You'll
get?
mhm. You'll have a different username for each
Okay.
conference.
Okay.
Yep,
Mhm.
absolutely. And yeah, Calvin, yours is a little bit more not difficult, but unique this year with you being the one that's going in and reporting for those three conferences. And of course, we can jump in and help with getting all that set up for you for sure. So let's go ahead and get logged in.
Okay.
And I am going to I have two members of my team on the call today. We have Adam Shelton and Ali Yang. Both of them help out with everything to do with stats, and Ali also does everything to do with records. Adam is primarily focused on stats. So I'm going to let him go ahead and take it over or take it away.
Okay. So as you log in, you'll first see your conference dashboard, and it'll let you know that it's open for you guys right now at this moment. So you can go in, log in as yourself, and you'll see that you can play around in the system for 2024 year. And it also shows that right now it's not open for local churches. And so that process is one of the things we'll be talking about, going through the steps to be able to open it. So then your churches can then log in themselves, create their accounts, and then put in their stats for information. And so you'll see here, if you scroll down, your church summary, which shows how many churches you have active within the 2024 stats year, which will include closed churches as well that are closing that year. Your districts, and then also it'll show how far along your churches are in the process of getting their information submitted. So you'll see your pie charts here and your numbers up here, as well as your districts down here. And then so now I'll show off, we'll go to the security and settings up here. We'll go to user account management. And so here is where you can set up any new users or edit any information for your current users for conferences or districts. So if you have any new conference users or district users that you need to create accounts for, you can do that here at new user. And you can put in all your information. And so as Leslie said before, the username right here, that's different from the email now. So for your users, they can be different, and you can have the same email for multiple different accounts now. And then just put in all the information that's requested. And then the access role as well. So whether or not they're a conference or a district user, you can make a church user, but they can do that on their own when they're first doing their stats. So it's better to do it for them to do it themselves. And then you'll just enter a password as well. And so you'll see that, yep, a new user has been created. And then you can also click on any of the users before and then see what was listed before. And as you'll notice with this account here, we carried over username from email. So if you need to change your username or make it any different, you can do that here. As well as you can make an account inactive if you're no longer using that person, but you still want to maybe just leave it in instead of deleting it. And you can just save that here, basically. And so as well, if we go click on security and settings again, we can see user login summaries. This will show you when your users have been logging in. So basically, you'll know if a specific church that you've been contacting has logged in recently or not. It'll just give you helpful information like that on when their last login was and how many times they've logged in as well. And so next after that, import from GCFA core data. What this is doing is this is pulling our data from the Chronicles system database into AC Stats. And so say if you have any information that you notice has not been updated and you've already hit these buttons, it'll be a situation where you'll need to let us know and have us update it on the Chronicles side. And then once we've updated that, you'll hit these buttons and have your information be updated. And so as well, another thing with our import district data button, if you have any district realignments that you've done, say within the year or within the stats here specifically, it'll let you know that if you have any active churches still within those closed districts, it'll let you know here that basically those will be showing in the AC Stats system. And so that'll be something as well you'll need to contact us on because then, I mean, those districts should not have any actual churches still active within them. And so that's just something to take note of if you see that when you hit that button. And then importing church data. This is just importing basically kind of all the updated information in Chronicles into AC Stats. So, you know, any new close dates, any new address changes, things like that, pastor information, all of that is put in here. And it also lets you know how many inactive churches is just specifically the ones that closed in prior years. So 2023 or earlier.
So before you move on, I just want to focus on something that you just mentioned. So if you redistricted last year or this year in 2024, because that's what we're reporting on, you're going to see, and I just want to just reemphasize that, you're going to see the districts that close there, assuming they have closed churches in there, because we still want to collect their stats, right? We want to collect their stats At a minimum, we'll need to zero out their membership, but also collect as many stat information pieces as we can. This is where also you'll see, like to Adam's point, if there's still a church that's listed as active in one of those closed churches, it got missed in the realignment, and that's something, of course, we'll need to focus on. Now, let's take it a step further. If you're redistricting starting January 1st, 2025, and Calvin, I'm kind of looking towards you on this, because while you're not redistricting, you're realigning everything into the New Horizon Texas Conference. What we're going to do is, it's imperative that for your conferences, the prior 3 conferences, that their data all looks good. And then we are going to lock you out of being able to import your data again, so that we can move your, realign all your churches and chronicles, and it will be correct there, and you won't accidentally move their realignment and re-import them. So just be aware of that. If you're realigning effective January 1st, let us know that as soon as you can, so that we can be prepared, but we'll also lock you out from importing your data again. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. And so we can go back to the conference dashboard now. As well, another thing we just can talk about right now is at the top right here, you can see need help and then managing year as well. If you need to go back and look at any prior year data, you can click on that managing year and select any year earlier and look at your data from that specific year. And for need help up here, this is where you can put, this button will be visible, or at least this at the top right, other churches and district users will see this button as well. And so you can put any information on who to contact within the conference. And so you can edit that right down here. If you need to change the name, email, or phone number that is listed, you can do that and save that here. And so now we'll go down here to the conference note for local churches. This is a note that your church users will see when they pull up their annual report. So they'll just basically you'll have a note here that they notice basically right as they pull it up. You can put whatever you need to put specifically, whether it relates to a specific question you've made or what they need to answer, something like that. You can put that here and they'll notice that when they start putting their stats in. And so now we'll go down to the local churches section. And so just to let you know, there are 3 basic main sections that you have to complete before you can open for local churches. And so this first one here, we go through like just reviewing all the local churches and the information related to them. And so right now we'll click on review churches here. And then we'll see that this lists basically all of our churches within our conference. If you scroll down, you can see that we have those 7 active churches. One of them's closing, so it has closed listed here. And here are those 2 districts that closed and have been realigned. One of them still has an active church and one of them has a closed church. And so that's why they're still showing up. And from here, you can basically just click on any of your churches and look at their local data. You can see here basically the view that the church user will see when they first log in. And then you can click on annual report here, and that will pull up their stats page of where they put in all their data. One second, there we go. And if you scroll down, you can see basically an unfilled page of their stats so far. And so this is what it looks like. This is what they'll see when they try to put in their stats. And so we'll go back now. Or actually, no, not yet. And so right here, the print button. Do you want to talk about that, Leslie?
Yes. So one of the things, thank you, Adam. One of the things that we've had historically is in our old system called Ezra, we used to have the ability where users could click and print their their report in a PDF format. Last year we had that, but she wasn't pretty. It didn't look right. So we've actually been working pretty hard to get this PDF version to print out, where now, go ahead and pull up one of them, Adam. Now you can print it out in PDF format. It will page break appropriately for each table. As we know, a lot of the churches will give table 1 to one person, table 2 to another, table 3 to a third person, then consolidate it all to enter it in. But you can see it now lines up pretty nicely. It's got some formatting that we didn't have prior. And again, like I said, it splits at the actual table. We also have some header information that carries over on each page just to be able to help identify it. There's 3 different things you can print here. You can print like this, the year over year, so you can see prior year to current year. You can print, a blank report, or you can print a chart report. Right now, there's no stats, so there's no charts that will be printed, but it's really all that table 1 vitality information. What's my membership look like? What's my number of baptism? What's the attendance? That sort of thing. It's really all those charts that you can pull up on data. We've now pulled them here into stats so that you can pull them individually also.
Thank you, Leslie.
Absolutely.
And so we'll go back to the conference dashboard. And now if you notice, the pie chart has one church that says started and not submitted. And so that's because I pulled up the annual report for that specific church. When you do that for any of your churches, they'll be marked like that. We'll show later how to clear that as the status and put them back as not started. And that's something that we'll want to do before we open for local churches. And so the next section for local churches is to set your passwords. And so this is the default password that your church users will use with their GCNO as their username when they're first logging in. And so you'll basically just set it or whatever default password you want to set it for the year. And you can see basically that you'll have to have capitals, special characters, things like that, just kind of the normal things that most passwords require. And then you'll have that set for your church users. And that's something you'll give to them in a big email to all your church users at the start of stats collection time. And so the next section, the data collection settings, this relates to your information that you want to have displayed for your church users. So if you remember earlier, I showed off the church details and the annual report page. And so both of those pages have certain things that they're showing, and that's what's selected here. So basically, if I didn't want them to see the address or maybe the conference number, things like that, or even maybe the pastor, you can click these, uncheck mark these, and they will not show up on those pages. And it's the same as well for the entry page. There were a few things up here. We can unselect those so that they don't see them and hit save. And so we will go back to the conference dashboard now. This next section for churches that are not reporting stats to GCFA, these it might not relate to all conferences, but there might be certain churches that are, let's say, not standardized, or maybe federated churches that basically you're not getting stats for, and they're a church that you basically are not going to report stats to specifically GCFA for your conference. And so you can mark them here as ones that you do or do not want to have reported for their stats. And so that means that you'll still be able to see them and you're on your side. It's just that any reports that we pull for GCFA specifically, we will not see them. And so you can mark them here. We'll go back to the conference dashboard. The next section, pastor customization.
So pastor customization, this is something new that we did this year. We have heard in the past churches contact y'all and say, for example, my pastor information is not correct. At some point when we talk with them, we say, we understand, please go ahead and continue. And they're like, no, I'm not filling this out till it's correct. So one of the ways that it has been corrected historically is we fix the pastor information, you re-import your information and it shows up. Another way is in the data collection settings, you could go in and just not display the pastor information. Well, we've taken it a step further this year. This year, you as a conference can choose whether you're going to allow your churches to edit the pastor information. It will only edit it and save it in AC Stats. Let me say that again. It will only edit it and save it in AC Stats. It does not save it over into Chronicles. So when you go ahead and it's just a simple toggle. When you toggle it, it says the option for pastor customization is fully updated. And then when we get to that point where Adam starts showing us our testing, you'll be able to see what a church sees and how that will show up. But just remember, this is how you set to allow pastors, or sorry, people at the church level to edit their pastor information. That's their name, their email, and their phone number. Okay.
Yes. And so after doing all that, we'll be done with the local churches section. And so we can hit toggle again right here. And this will give us, it'll basically just say that we've completed our review of the local churches section. We'll get a check mark down here, letting us know that that section at least has been fully reviewed and completed. And so we can move on to the next section. And so this section relates to the questions. And so this is where we can hit review questions to pull them up. This is where all of your conference questions are shown. So that includes all the GCFA questions that are standard and required, as well as all of your custom questions that your conference might have. Not all conferences might be using them, but you can create or edit any questions you want here within this section. And so as you can see, all of the questions are listed down here. If you keep scrolling, you can choose the specific tables you want to basically go right down to at the top here. And I'll show off what creating a new question looks like. And so as you can see here, here are the questions. It'll immediately show that it's a conference question because since you're the one creating it. You'll put your question number here as well as a reference code. That's something that's required. And that's just to say specifically, basically just the name of your question. So kind of what it relates to. You can specify which table it appears in, what kind of question number it's going to have, as well as where it sorts in this section. And so that's what these numbers are on the side here, the sort order number. As well, you can create a question if you want. You could make a new table. So if you want to have table 4 or 5, a section within a table, or make it a totaling question, just meaning that other questions can total into that one. That's how you can do that. And that'll also make it that that question is not editable, only that the questions that total into it are editable. And you can put a description as well for your questions, as well as help details. Down here, as we said earlier, this can be where you have your questions total into another question. And if you have a totaling question saved, it'll be one of the options listed down here that you can total into. As well, minimum value, maximum value, a warn and error if 0. Basically, warn if 0 means they should put a description for why it's a 0, and error if 0 means they're required to put a description, an explanation as to why it's 0. Warning if variance, this specific one has to do with the percentage amount. So say if you choose 75, that means if the question is 75% above or below what it was in the prior year, it will force them to put an explanation for why that is. And if we save this question, let me actually make it so we can see it. Save question. Oh wait, well, no, I forgot the reference code. There we go. Save. And as you can see, it appears right here. And again, if you need to edit any of your questions, you can click on either the sort or question number right here, highlighted in blue. And you can make any modifications you need to the question. And as well, we talked about this in the last session we had. If you, as a conference user, want to make any of your conference questions inactive, say you're not using them anymore, at the top left here, you can toggle this is active, and then you make it inactive. Now it shows red. And as well, if you just want to make it something that is hidden from the church user, you can mark that. Or if you just want it to be that it's read only, you can click the is editable one. And then allow GCFA push. This one specifically just has to do with if you want any changes we might make to questions be allowable to still go through. Is you can click this as well to prevent GCFA push. And so we'll save this question now as inactive. And now you'll see that it's slashed through for all of these parts. Just letting you know that it's still there, but it's listed as inactive. And so now, after that, we'll go back to the conference dashboard. Additional validations, this is the next section. And so this one has to deal with questions 4, 5, and 6. So that's the membership, ethnicity, and gender totals. Those questions basically just are making sure that if you have any extra custom questions for, say, ethnicity, if you're including other breakdowns that total into the total ethnicity of your churches, you can add them here basically. So say if you have a 51.A or 50A.2 like that, you can put them in here so that they're totaled as well into your church's ethnicity totals. And then you can save those validations here and move on to the next section. And so this next section is where you'll do upload files. And so if your conference just uploads only apportionment values, you can do that here as well. Or if you do all of your values, this is where you'll put in basically your entire conference's like stats lines. And so right here, as you can see, there are 3 buttons here. And the first one we'll want to hit is to download the template file. This one is just a good to download and use where you put in your stats lines because it basically lists all of your lines, including your custom lines here, which will be the ones that have these names basically like this. And so as you can see, the second row here is for reference, just in case you use the numbers themselves to kind of remember what the codes are versus the names at the top. But as you can see, basically keeps going over. These are all of your questions all the way to your final one. And you'll basically just have to put in your conference number, church number, and then the questions you want to have uploaded. And so let's say if you just want to have specifically only questions 1 through 4 done, you'll want to make sure that all your other questions are removed from the upload because otherwise anything that's listed as blank will get put in as a 0. So just make sure not to include those in your upload. And if you do, Leslie, you want to talk about that? Just
I was going to say, if you do, it happens, right? We've all been there where we click a button before we're ready and it uploads everything and wipes all your stuff out. I'm going to say, first and foremost, don't panic. It's all good. Just give us a call. We had somebody do that last year and it took us a little bit of time to get the data back, but we got it back. And in doing so, we created a process. So now if somebody should wipe away their data by accident, it's an easy get back. We'll have it back within 10 minutes. So it's not a problem at all. Just give us a call and we'll take care of it for you.
Yep. And so I'm going to show off right now. Just specifically, I'll move it right over. This is my edited, basically I've just put in the stats lines that I'm going to upload for this specific test conference. These are for 6 of the 7 churches, and I'll edit the 7th one once we get to it. But this is what it looks like. And so if you see, it basically just shows like all of these lines that I have listed blank, they'll be zeros, and all the ones I have with data in them will still have that data. And so I basically just go over and have basically all of my data that I'm going to show in the upload. And we will go back over and try to upload that right now. And so what I did this on purpose. I showed that if you have any errors in your upload, it will list them here in red. And basically what I did was I put the incorrect conference number compared to what it should be, which is 998. And so I can get that fixed right now and then do another upload. And let's see, let me make sure. It actually did not, wait 1 second. No, it didn't save. Let's see there. Okay, I think it's saved now. Yes. Okay, it's still, let's see. Okay, that's strange. So for some reason, it's showing them below the one we just did earlier, but they are right here. If you see down below, these are the two ones we just ran. We'll have our developers look at that and see why that's happening. But the correct church is or that we have uploaded all 6 churches now. And if you do need to look at that upload history again, it's that middle button here. It'll show you all of the uploads you've run. And if you need to maybe run any more. So we'll go back to the conference dashboard now. And then now that with that, we've reviewed all the questions, and now we can mark this as completed. And so that is another check mark, 2 out of the 3. And now we'll move on to testing. And so with this first part, this is testing the annual report. This is us basically testing as if we were a church user going in and trying to edit all of our stats lines and seeing what happens if we make any mistakes or try to submit with that process. And so we'll scroll down and see that, oh, yep, some errors are happening because nothing's been entered into these lines yet. And once we put data into them, they get fixed. And so if we try to submit before we've actually checked all of the errors, we'll see that there's still a few more that need to be checked. And so you can click on the question that is highlighted here to see what's the problem and go down to it. And so we can put values into these lines and have them updated. Oh, and go down here to the last one as well, put a value into it. And then we can see if everything's working correctly. And it looks like it is. So we can hit submit report there. And now put in our information, email position, all of that information as what a pastor would do. And then submit the annual report. But I believe the reason why this is not working right now is just because we're as a test user. This is not a this is not a church that's getting saved. This is as a test user. So that's why it's not, that's why it's failing to see what the GCNO of this church is, since it's zeros. But we'll go back now to the conference dashboard again. We'll click on that annual report again, just because there's one other thing I wanted to show before we went back. And it was that you can see if you click on local church details here, right next to that print button, you can go back here and see that the updates we made with what we had shown or not with we didn't show the conference name or the address information. It's not listed in here anymore. And you can see as well this button here that if you want your churches, they'll see this here. They'll be like, oh, I want to update my information. They can click this box and check mark it. And then now they'll be able to update their pastor name, email as well, and their phone number.
And just to reiterate and remind you, this data only stays in AC Stats. We do not have it send back to Chronicles, which, as a reminder, Chronicles is our GCFA database of all the churches and all the information. So it just keeps it here. If you go and the church says, oh, that's not right or whatever, they can uncheck the box. And once they uncheck it, it takes it back to whatever that data was that was imported. If we check it again, it brings up whatever they entered. So you can change it multiple times. We do store all that information on the back end. We just don't display it. So if somebody came in and changed this multiple times, we're going to be able to see that on the back. We just only display the latest one. Yep. This latest pastor, though, excuse me, will be what prints on all the reports. So if you do a PDF report, if you do any of the reports at the top, this is the name, whatever is showing here, whether it be what was imported from Chronicles, or if you allowed your church to enter in their own name, that's what will print on all the reports.
Yep. And so now we will go back to the dashboard again. And now that is the testing for the annual report. We will get, click this again, this toggle here, and we will get the third check mark we need. And as you'll notice, there's still a few more things listed before we open it. And those are just extra things to do right before opening. And so this one here will clear all of the data that we put in the system so far. So that includes the us opening up any churches, us putting any data here right before we open. We want to make sure we do this just because, if you've been, showing off any of your churches and putting values into them, you want to make sure that everything's kind of back to a default state of nothing has been entered into, nothing has been edited at all. And so we can clear that out here. And so now as you see, we're back to all red on this, so no one started, so that's good. And then we will also go to the next last section, and
Right,
this
so-
has to deal with districts.
So this last piece is something that we've just started to put in. So the way that our understanding is we have some conferences that when their churches are done submitting everything, conference personnel will go in, whether it be the statistician or the treasurer, will go in and review everybody's entries and approve it. But we have some conferences where they're like, well, I want my district folks to do that first. And then I'm going to go back and review everything they did. So it's like a double approval. Well, if the conference is reviewing it, they don't want the districts to be able to make any changes, right? That makes total sense. If you're ready to check everything, you want everything to stay static and as it was. So that's where this now comes into play. So there's two toggles here. One is you can set the districts to read only. This will allow your district users to go in and they can do everything except for edit a church, right? It'll take away their buttons to unsubmit a church, takes away their edit features, all of the things that makes them only read only. The other toggle that we have is allow districts to reset churches. This is something that you can decide on independently, whether you have districts that do approvals or not. You can decide, you know what, I don't want my districts to have that power to reset an entire church. For that you may want them to come to you as a conference level user. And that's where you can check that toggle or flip that toggle switch.
Yep. And so now with that, we've reviewed everything. We can now open up for the local churches to put in their stats. And so doing this, it'll just log you out. You can log right back in afterwards. And just to show it before, if we untoggle one of these and try to open the year, it will say that we need to complete all three of these before we can open the year. Let's make sure all three are have a check mark, and then we'll click on it and then confirm and open. And so we'll just log right back in. And as you can see at the top here, now it says in green on the right that it's open for local churches. And so now that means that a church user can go in and they can start, they can put in their GCNO and their default password you assigned and start putting in their stats data. And so we'll do that right now. And so they'll put in their GCNO and then as well the default password that's been set up for the year. And then from this page, they'll see that there's no specific users that have been created yet. So they'll click here to register themselves. And so this is where they'll put in their church username information. And so now instead of having to use multiple different emails, you can use multiple different usernames. And so I guess a nice way to do it is you could put in your name and then your church, specific church that you're creating here. and then have your same email that you've used before for your email for each of them. And then you can put in all the information.
And you can see the little red asterisk where we have made fields required. Obviously, name, username, email, that sort of thing, their role, those are all the required entries.
Leslie, I
Yes.
noticed, this is Myra. I'm
Yes, Myra.
sorry I was late to the game here. I got the
All good.
wrong Zoom link. But anyway, I noticed on the very screen after when you click to go into ACS, it says for new users, use what their conference sent you. But if you were in there before, you can use last year's. And we reset everyone, so we wouldn't really want them to see that message.
Right.
I mean,
You're 100% correct. We do reset them every year. When we open up the year for conferences, we bring over conference users, district users, and we don't bring over the church users. So I'm sorry, you said on the screen before
yes.
that had reference to that.
Soon as you go in a blue space, right
Mhm.
after reporting of annual statistics for local churches.
Okay.
It says, first time users go use what the conference sent you. Otherwise, users can use the existing accounts that they set up in the last year or so.
Okay.
I forget exactly how it's worded.
Let
I know
me
what you
actually
mean.
show that, and let's see it because I'll register right now, and then we can re-log in. So let's do that. So let's actually log back out.
It's right there, Adam, that
Oh,
she's
okay, yeah.
referring to.
Oh,
So
okay, sorry. Yes.
Myra, I see what you're saying, and I can definitely wordsmith that a little bit so that they know it's for the current year that they've created, not for prior years. So yeah, I'll wordsmith that.
Okay. I missed the first part, but I'll probably just get another Zoom from you, maybe if there's another one I can set in.
We actually we can do a one-on-one, Myra, but we are also recording this session here that you're in. So I can send you the recording for sure.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. Like I said, happy to do a one-on-one with you also.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And if we log in with the same way we did before, now with a created username, they could either log in with their new account, or they could do the same thing they did before, where they use the GCNO and the default password. And now they'll see that their user up here has been created, so they can say, "This is me." And it takes them to the same place that they do right as they register as well. And so they'll see here, as we saw before, if they want to edit their pastor information, they can do it here and then save it, or just leave it the way it is.
I had one more comment.
Yes,
Mhm.
Myra,
In
sure.
that yellow section there,
Mhm.
about if your church information is incorrect, and forgive me, I might have missed this on the front end. Are we still going to have the ability to not show them very much of their information again?
Yes, ma'am. That is
Yes.
absolutely correct. You still have the ability to go through and customize what fields they can see. And then this was a huge change that we made this year is you can allow custom
Yes.
pastor customization where they can go in and make those edits, and it just stays in stats. It does not move it into chronicles, but this way their reports will reflect a new pastor name if they wanted to make that change. But
right.
that's a long answer to say yes. You can still choose it.
And so we'll go to the annual report now as a church user. And so this is what they'll see as they log in. They'll see all of their information, including any errors they have that they'll need to fix before they're corrected, as well as anything they need to add explanations to. And if we try to submit before we've done all of the validations and checked if everything's good, it will then say which questions that need to be looked at before they can submit. And so we can answer those questions. There we go. And then see here as well, we can answer all the questions.
The other red borders that he's scrolling by, just in case you didn't catch it, those are just warnings. So they're not, we're not requiring that those be entered in. It's just a warning to be like, you might want to look at this, but it's not a hard stop of an error that will not let them submit. So just so if you caught that as he was scrolling, he's just putting in the errors so we can submit.
Yep. And so that's just the warn if zero is what that one is related to. And so we'll hit submit now. And it says everything's successfully validated. We'll submit the report. And so then we'll put in our information here. And then our position as well. And then submit this annual report. And so now that it's submitted, they won't be able to edit any of their numbers. So they'll want to make sure those are all done before they hit submit. If they still do need to make any edits to their numbers, they'll have to contact either you or the district persons for them to for you to unsubmit that church, as it says right down here in red. And so the process there is in your hands and it's out of theirs. And so we will log out and go back to being a conference user. And now you can see this specific church we just did. They're now awaiting approval. So they're all we need to do now is we can go back to the local churches section and we can see down right here their submit date. So this is the church that we just went through. They have a submit date. We can now we can either click this button here and mark them and then approve, or if we want to go more individually, we can pull up that annual report on our own, look at the numbers, and then right here click to for the conference or district to approve. Hit approve, and now as you can see, this church has been approved for the 2024 year.
Adam, if you can stay on that screen.
Yep.
One thing I want to point out is if you notice in the upper section, it has the church password displayed down about 4 right there. That's only being shown because Adam is logged in as a conference user, right? Church users, when they go in, they're not going to see that. Why we have that there is we had a case last year. It's from a security standpoint. We had a case last year where we received a phone call that somebody that worked in the church office that had access to stats with the password had been asked to not be in a leadership role anymore. So they wanted to reset the password while we removed their name where they, this is me. We wanted to change the GCNO password, but we didn't want to do it globally for the whole conference. So now we've changed this. So you can, if need be, you can change an individual church's GCNO password by making the change here on the church details page. That's only as a conference user. Churches themselves cannot do that. I just wanted to point that out. That was something that somebody asked about in a prior training. So I wanted to make sure that was explained.
Yep. Thank you, Leslie.
Is that only available if you have the I want to update pastor info clicked, or is it?
That shows up on the church details page. So when you log in.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And so we'll go back to the conference dashboard. And now that we've submitted that church, as you can see, now it's green. And so kind of what we're wanting is to make sure we can get all of those churches submitted for the 2024 year. And one thing I want to do as well, because I realized I did it, I actually wiped all the data with that button. So I'm going to hit the upload again. Make sure that we have that data uploaded. There it is. So now that's all 7 of our churches. As you can see though, even though we did put that information in, this going from not started to fully submitted, that only happens for the churches that have their annual reports get put in manually by those church users. So those other 6 ones that we uploaded values for, they did not, they aren't going to show that way until we get to the final submission process to GCFA. So I guess you'll have to make note of any churches that you have in that situation. And so now will close the year for churches. And so now the year is closed. Now, if you see at the top right, it's now in red saying that it's closed for local churches. And now the next sections, just the kind of final things to check before you submit your churches to GCFA. This one is rolling up satellite churches. This relates to if you want your satellites to be listed separately or for all of their stats to be rolled up into the parent church when you have your in your reports and things like that. So basically, if you'll see all of that information just put into the parent church. If you want to include that, you can toggle this, and now you know all that information has been set that way. And so the next part here, at-large membership. This is where you can put any of your at-large membership for your conference into this section here. Instead of me having to ask you every single time through emails what your at-large is, you can put the number here, and then we'll know instead of badgering you for that number, I'll be able to check this and see what your number is, and then have it saved here instead. This next section here, this button, calculate and validate answers. This specifically more or less relates to any upload values that you're doing in the system. Let's say after you've already closed the year out, you put in any values, and for those churches that haven't had their stats like kind of submitted, things like that, say you're putting in apportionment lines, things like that, if they've already submitted, they don't get recalculated kind of immediately. So that button here will make it so that all of those get put correctly and total into line 50, things like that. So if you click this button here, then all of those upload lines will get checked and made sure that everything is validated correctly. So I put any membership numbers incorrectly, it will basically now have them flagged instead of just be ignored. And then all of the totaling lines get totaled correctly. And so unfortunately, because we have made a lot of test questions that have totaling lines, it takes a little bit longer, at least for us. But I would say it's no longer than a minute usually for this question. Maybe if you have a bunch of churches, it's just a little bit longer, but it's not that long, at least, thankfully. But with this, once this question and the next one are done, that will be everything to do before submitting, at least besides looking at any reports or anything else you need to potentially check before you want to submit. But those are the last two kind of final sections you'll need to review before getting to the end. Apologies for the dead air. I guess it's taken just a little bit longer than I wish it did, unfortunately.
I wanted to say something too about hours work. I don't think our Chronicles has been updated. So I was gonna get with Abby. I talked with Abby this morning and she said, yes, they had looked and like our appointments hadn't been changed and so forth. And so we'll work that out with getting that updated. But that's one of the reasons why in that yellow about them contacting us if it's not correct. I wish we had some control over what that says by conference, because number one, the districts aren't involved with like if they see something wrong that's not working right and that kind of thing, that they would need to call us, but then we really can't do anything about it if what you have doesn't match ours. And I hope to not show very many things, very many items, that'll get us away from that. But I wish in some of the language throughout, it could be more appropriate to each conference as to what they are doing, So that's just a comment. I know it'd be hard. It might be difficult to allow, like our opening message, we're able to write it now, and that's helpful because I can say I mailed out instructions and so forth, and also we have them on our website and that kind of thing. But
Right. That's a great suggestion, Myra. You are not alone. We had somebody in the call on Friday ask about doing that also. So we're going to write that up and talk with our developers this week and see if maybe we can make it so that that yellow portion can be editable by each conference for their own specific needs. So that's something we're looking at because we still have, I'm going to say roughly a month, just because of the two Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. That cuts us a little short, but we have roughly a month to be able to get that done. And I think that's something that can be definitely looked into doing before we open it up for the year. So that's a great comment and a great question, Myra. Absolutely.
Yep. And so now it finally did finish. You can see all of the totaling questions listed here. These are all the ones that have been had their numbers fully basically totaled into. So if we had any upload values that totaled into line 50 or anything like that, they'll now be correctly just calculated here. And so now the last section, do churches have matching membership? Do you want to talk about this one, Leslie?
So the matching membership. So what happened? This is a new check we have. So as you all may or may not be aware, once you submit your stats, Adam goes through and reviews everything and sends emails back. Hey, can you check this? Can you check that? And one of the things that happens is when you upload your stats, the checks that happen, right, aren't performed. So this is something we put on the system so Adam doesn't have to do it manually. And it looks at all those, like, for example, making sure 4, 5, and 6 all equal. And what happens is when you click on show results, I think we put some out there. Yes, so we're showing here that, for example, the Living Water Church in our demo, the ethnicity and the membership and the gender total, which should all equal, do not. So it allows you to go in and make the changes before you submit it to us and we review it and have to send it back. We just get that all fixed on the front end. So you can change that, recheck your validations, and then once that's corrected, it will drop off the report. We do have a download Excel button. So if you have quite a few and you want to export that, to Excel, you do have that option to do so.
So all three have to match. I mean, because our churches, some of them, they don't give us the ethnicity, and some of them, they don't do the gender right. And I would have to visit that church to actually know. So when I upload that file to you, if those don't agree, this final validation check is going to refuse the file, so to speak.
It will refuse that record. It will point out to you that they do not match, and then you can then review it. That's something that we'll have to look back on to see how we've addressed that in the past with you. And forgive me, I just don't remember, because that is a check that we have that they match, right? However, what your membership, your ethnicity, and gender are. So
well,
we can
I mean, some don't even provide the gender, and they won't. And they won't provide the ethnicity, and don't think we should be asking that. And I've had comments like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, my file will never get sent to you because I'm not going to be able to contact, 700 churches. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And when I've given them before, I think Adam maybe went back and did some kind of percentage thing, but it may not be real. I mean, you'd be guessing.
Right. Well, and that's something, Myra, we can definitely talk about outside of this call about how we can help you gather that information. But I totally understand how that would be frustrating and having to contact all 800 of your churches. Absolutely.
But I won't have time to do that.
No, 100. That's what I'm saying, that it would be difficult to do that. I totally understand that. So.
Well, and Leslie, I was pretty sure we had pushed past this in the past. So yeah, if you can review how we had allowed this in the past, because my memory is that we more or less said disregard. So
okay. Yeah, let me check into that for sure, Jamie.
I think I've worked directly with Latarsha when we were trying to finalize and kind of push past some of these validations.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay. But basically, once that final check has been done, so we go into here, we can actually pull up that church, Living Water, go into their annual report. We can fix that number if we need to, or we can do it in the upload, either or. We'll see that the upload actually did mess it up, and so that's why this value is not editable right now. So if I confirm allow edit, then I can make that change. What as well is the situation. So if as a church user, if you've uploaded any values, they won't be able to do that. That value will stay as it is. So it'll have to be another upload or you going in yourself to edit that value specifically. And that's just because we don't want any values that you as a conference user are putting in for the church to get overwritten by the church user themselves. And so now that specific value has been corrected. We go down here. Now we see that's a check mark. And now we're allowed to submit this to GCFA. And so now, as you can see at the top here, it's been submitted to GCFA and is now closed. And that now does mean that you will not have access to be able to edit any of your church values, just because we don't want that changing if we're in the process of reviewing your churches or anything. We don't want those to be edited. So you're right now basically in a read-only status. You can still review all your reports. You can look at all your local churches. You just can't change any of the values for those stats lines. And so now the last thing we'll want to talk about is reports. And so Leslie.
So yes, perfect. So I'm watching our time and I know we're a few minutes over. So I just want to touch on a couple of things real quick with these. So we have multiple reports out here. One of the reports that I want to talk about is that we fixed is the custom export report. Last year we had an issue with the timing that it took to run this report. If you this report allows you to choose any or all of your churches. You can choose all church types. You can have it individual by district. There's a lot of different options. You can choose one or all the stats fields. If you scroll down a little bit, you can choose one or all. But then you can, you can run it for just 1 year or 2 years or however many years you want to put in. The problem was if you ran it for 1 year, it would run in a minute, which is not too bad. But if you put in 4 years, it took 14 minutes for the one conference that we used. For West Virginia, for Myra and Jamian, I'm sure it would take longer because you had more churches than the conference that I'm referring to that pointed this out to us. We've done some changes, some fixing on the back end on how these are run. And now we took that report that ran in 14 minutes and now it runs in a minute and a half. It's still going to take a little bit of time, but if you figure it's all the stats fields for all the churches for 4 years, that's a lot of data to chug through. So that's one of the, I would say new features, but that's one of the changes that we made or upgrades that we made this year. So Adam, I'll let you talk about a couple of the other reports.
Okay. So the error integrity report, this one, as it's pulled up, it'll show just kind of specific errors that basically things you kind of want to check on. If you look at your churches and you're like, this church should not be missing their stats lines for the first few ones, 1 through 9, or maybe it's missing operating expenses. That's usually one line we like to always show just because we're mostly going to expect a church to have operating expenses unless maybe they're just like fully closed throughout the year. There should usually be, some charges on how expensive, running the lights are basically, or something like that. That's what'll show up here where you can review those. Another report as well is the warning report. This will show all of those questions that, if you remember, we went through and we saw some of the warnings, some of the percentage increases or decreases showing as warnings, some errors as well, things like that. In this report, if your churches are all going through and answering everything, the explanations on here won't be blank. However, if you do upload your stats lines, all of them for your churches, they will be blank since no one's able to put explanations for those. But if every church is going in through the stats, annual report, putting all their values in, all of these lines on this will have explanations down here. So you won't have to just guess why this value increased by like 1,000% or something. They will put an explanation for that at least. which will be helpful for you. And so you can look at that here. And then another one. Do you want to talk about any of the other ones, Leslie?
I do. So the chart reports, that's the very last one that I think we're going to talk about today. So this is historically, you could go in to the old system Ezra and you could you could say, I want to see all my churches and I want to see all those charts that we have out on data, right? All your like membership, attendance, number of baptisms, things like that. You can see all those. Well, we haven't had that in the last year or so in stats. I'm happy to announce that we do have that now. You can go out and choose whether it be by district or by churches, and you can say, let's go ahead and run that report or download report. It will take a minute because you can understand all your churches running all these reports. What it does is it puts it out into a zip file that's downloaded. So Adam's going to show us his file that he downloaded or that he created. And you can see here for the conference that we chose, it has all your churches in their own individual PDF where it's going to show all the charts. So let's go ahead and just choose one so you can see what it looks like. And here you go. So this is for Alfred UMC. If I remember correctly, this is in Alabama, West Florida. And it's showing the different data that we have collected from them over the years regarding these different key statistics. So that is a definite new feature that's out there this year. Very excited about that for y'all, because I know that's something that you all have been asking for. And I'm glad we were able to do that for this year. Okay. So those are pretty much all of the points that I think we wanted to cover. Adam, is there anything else that I may have forgotten? I think that was the last thing that we had.
Yeah, I believe that is the last thing.
Okay, perfect. So any questions that you may have as we've reached the end of our session today?
I have one. So
yes, Judy, please.
I know you said, with the click our pastor is not correct, and they go in and that doesn't change in Chronicles. Is there a way that we can get the list or to get that information so that we know which churches are saying, hey, our pastor's not correct?
Right. Adam, is that out there in production yet? Because we had said the same thing, Judy, that we wanted y'all to be able to do that. So it's just not sitting out there in this never land, that you're able to print it out. So that's something that we're working on with our developers, and we'll have that out there soon as a report that you can print to see what the church is, what the data is from Chronicles, and what they've put in.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
That'll be another report listed basically probably at the bottom here.
Okay.
Correct. Okay. Good question, Judy. Anything else? I don't see anything. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're going to send me a recording of what went on, is that pretty quick turnaround on that?
Yes, ma'am. As soon as we hit stop on this after this call, then I'll be able to send it out.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to send it to everybody that's on the call today. We're also going to update at the top of where it says annual church statistics training. We're going to have them put that link out there so that you can have the link so that you don't have to find it in your email. It will be changed out there also, in addition to me emailing it to you. Okay. I want to thank everybody for being on the call today. If you do not know already, GCFA is closed all of next week. We have been blessed to be able to be out of the office for the entire Thanksgiving week. So we are going to be checking email. I'm not going to lie. I know I'll check mine. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And if I don't speak to you before Thanksgiving, please, everybody, have a happy Thanksgiving.